Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of T-Dog RC, and this is part 2 of the Tony Nijhuis 25-inch Gnat, which is a Balsa EDF, which I'm building from a CNC wood pack. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. Okay, just a quick word just before we get stuck in to the video. If this is the first time you've found my channel, most of the people that watch the channel aren't subscribers, and you're into all things fixed wing RC, then please hit the subscribe button and also give me a thumbs up, give me a like as well. That really helps me out on YouTube and it helps me keep producing these videos basically. So this is part 2 of the Tony Nijhuis build. I'll put a link to part 1 around here somewhere. I can't quite figure out which corner it's in. So yeah, if you haven't seen part 1, have a look at that. That's where we just go through the review of the kit. Although I call it a kit, it's not really a kit because there's nothing in it. It's just a set of plans and a CNC wood pack. So it kind of is a bit of a scratch build in a way. You know, okay, I'm not building it from sheet bolts, but it's pretty close to that. You know, the only difference is rather than cut the parts out myself, I have bought the CNC wood pack, but everything else I've got to figure out and supply myself. So all of the control linkages and horns and snakes and all that sort of stuff, you don't get any of that in it. So it literally is just a wood kit. So should be a good challenge. And I'm going to be doing quite a few episodes on the channel now of Balsa builds because I won't bore you with all the details from part 1, but I'm really, for the foam side of things, pretty much only focusing on EDFs and wings and any sort of propeller type driven aircraft. Then I want to get mainly make those out of Balsa because that's where my passion is really, I suppose. And I'm also into nitro and that kind of thing as well as electric, and of course you have to use balsa wood with nitro engines or gas. So we're going to be starting the actual build today, and I'm going to start with the wings because they're the easiest thing to put together. In fact, they're so easy that there's a photo pack that you can download. I say that now, I say they're so easy. Let's see what happens when I start building them. But there's a photo pack, like a step-by-step pack of instructions that you can download from the website, and they don't actually even show you the wings because there's nothing too much to show. But what I have done is I've downloaded the instruction manual, which is available for free on the Tony Nijhuis website, which goes along with the plans. I've had a quick look at this just to see. It's fairly straightforward, so there's just some cut out pieces to form the wings, and then we've just got to glue them together, and then we've got to shape them with a razor plane and sanding blocks, that kind of thing. So let's get stuck into that, and I'll flip the camera over to my bench and I'll show you what I've got on the bench. Right then, well, first thing I want to show you is my building board, which I think is going to be ideal. So what I've used here, and I've seen a few people use these on YouTube, is a piece of, we'd call it plasterboard here in the UK. I think over the Atlantic it's called drywall board, sort of gypsum board, something like that. The reason why a lot of people recommend it is because it's very flat, which is ideal for building things square, of course, and you can get pins and push the pins in quite easily. So, and it's yeah, it's a bit more durable, I think, than it's sort of more solid than using cork. So I think it should work really well, and it's quite cheap as well. I think this board cost me about £4 or £5 from memory. Let's get that fly out of the way. And the other thing I've done is I've found a roll of this in my workshop, which is the stuff that you put down. It's almost like sticky back plastic in a way, but you put it down when you're painting and you don't want to get your carpet dirty. And it's absolutely perfect. So I've lined the board with a sheet of that. I just did one sheet, so it isn't right to the edge, but there's plenty of space on there. And of course the thing with this is this now gives a nice shiny surface, so I can put things on here, pin them down, glue them, and I'm not worried about gluing the part to the actual worktop. So I think this is going to be ideal. Really pleased with that. So let's get stuck into these wings. Okay, so here's the wings on the plan. So it's made up of 3 pieces. It's a solid sheet wing, so should be pretty straightforward to build. The aileron servos are actually in the side of the fuselage, so I don't have to make any provisions for the servos. And they're symmetrical wings, and what we've got to do is glue the 3 parts together. So I think there's these 2 parts and then the wingtip, and then we've got to shape it to the correct profile. And I think on here, yeah, if you perhaps can just about see here, it shows you a profile of the wing, so it actually ends up being pretty thin. But yeah, we shape it to that profile so it's nice and symmetrical, and then once we've got the wing how we want it, you then cut the ailerons out of the finished wing, basically, to give you that nice shape to the aileron there as well. So that makes it fairly straightforward. And then there's just a brace, I think along there, which we join the 2 wings together with. And I think by the looks of things, there is a tiny little bit of dihedral built into it as well, looking at the brace anyway, because it is at a bit of an angle. So let's find the 3 bits of wood that we need, and we'll start with 1 wing and see how we get on. Okay, here's the sheets with the components on then. So we've got the wing brace, which is made out of 3mm birch ply, which we don't need just yet, so I'll put that to one side for now. But then here's the main wing components on these sheets here. So these are laser cut, so we've just got to pop them out. So we've got there's 2 of these sections for each wing, and then there's the wing tips. I'm not sure what these are just yet, but I don't think they're anything to do with the wings. Obviously we need to make sure we don't discard that. But what I'll do as well is, even though when I've cut these out, I'll keep hold of this Balsa, because there are a few pieces on here. Balsa's so expensive now, you shouldn't really throw anything away other than tiny little scraps. And obviously this bit, for example, you know, there's a whole sheet there really that you could reuse for something. So always handy to keep. And this is 6.5 mils, which I think, I'm not very good with my imperial stuff, I'm far too young for all that, but I think that's about 1/4 inch. So there we are. Right, so let's pop these bits out and sort of do a dry run. I'm going to just get the plans out of the way, because I don't want to cut through the plans. Move my weights. And we will start by just cutting these little tabs. There's only 4 holding this in. And that just pops out like that. Perhaps just needs a very light sand just to take the tab off there. But yeah, nice. Just love the smell of balsa wood. Sorry about that, can't help myself. Right, so that's, I'll tell you what we'll do, one side at a time so we don't get confused. So we'll leave that side in the balsa for now. That, I'm guessing, there is a little cut that they've lasered in for the aileron. So that's I guess the root, sorry, not the root, but the end of the aileron, so to at least get you started. I assume that's what it is anyway. And then we're going to need a wingtip, but I'm not sure which way round just yet. So let's I don't suppose it matters, does it? Because they're identical. So let's get that cut out. Okay, so these are our 3 components that we need. Let's see, I'm guessing it goes something like that. That was fairly straightforward. Hope that wasn't an anticlimax for you. But yeah, so I think what I need to do is just sand these down a little bit, because we've got these tabs are sticking out, and then we'll get these glued into position, I think. So what I'm going to use to sand these down, if you haven't got one of these, then highly recommend you invest. Whoops. One of these Perma-Grip blocks. I've only got this one for now, but I think I'll treat myself to a few more. They do like a nice big long one as well. But they've got like a rough side and a fine side, and they're really good for working with Balsa, and don't really wear out, which is one of the big things about them. So, and of course, it's really nice and square as well. So let's run that along there. Doesn't take much, of course. You forget, if you've not worked with Balsa for a little while like I have, then you forget just how soft it is. You know, it doesn't take much at all just to start sanding it. So you do have to be careful that you don't go and put a dint in it or something like that. Okay, so pretty sure we were going to be like this, and then that's going to go like that. Just check that you can see. Oh yeah, I'll just keep checking the camera to make sure that you can see it okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run some thin CA on this. Let me just get a straight edge. This will do. So I've got some of these metal blocks as well, which I think I showed you these last time on part 1. But I'll just put that there like that, just so we know that they're absolutely square. And then we'll just run some thin CA in there. So let me just grab that. I do want this to be a pretty fast build, because it's a fairly straightforward build, you know, and with it being my first to get myself back into it again after a long time building these sorts of things. I don't want to be waiting for glue to dry over 24 hours and that sort of thing, so I am going to use CA for as much of it as I can. So we'll just run some in there. I will run this all the way along, but just sort of tacking it into place for now. And it is actually very strong thin CA when you're using it on this sort of you know, balsa wood like this, because it soaks right into it, and it does form a very strong bond. The only downside to CA is it's very brittle. So if you've got something that's going to, you know, sort of vibrate around a lot, then it's not necessarily the ideal glue to use. But with electric power, it's obviously a lot smoother than something like a nitro frame, which is going to be vibrated around all over the place. Let's run that along there, right the way along now. Plenty on, make sure it wicks in nicely, and then just hold those bits together for a few minutes and let it go off. Okay, there's the first wing together, wingtip on as well, so that's nice, pleased with that. First bit of building in many years done, and that's pretty good. So I'm going to get on with the second side as well. It's obviously exactly the same, so no point in showing you that. Just one extra little tip, and I absolutely speak from experience, and that is if you're using thin CA, or in this case it's very thin CA, if you have finished working with it, even though if you're going to be using it in a few minutes time, put the lid back on, because it is easy to knock the bottle over, and it goes absolutely everywhere, and it can cause absolute havoc. Couple of, well, what was I doing? I was repairing something at a house that we'd rented out for a few months, and I ended up spilling an entire bottle over the kitchen worktop, and it was just, it went in the sink and it started to cure as it was going into the sink. It was just a nightmare, but anyway, managed to clean it up. So yeah, make sure that even, like I say, even though you might be using it again in a few seconds, just put the lid on for what it's worth. Right, I'll get this second one cut out, and then we're into starting to have a look how we're going to shape them. So I'll get this done, be back in a few minutes. Right then, we have got ourselves a pair of wings. What we've got to do now is, if you can see on the plan here where the wing is, you can see it's got this crossed section here and here. So I've just got to line these wings up and mark that on here, because that is where you shape the wing basically. So chamfer it there, and obviously at the front as well, a bit more of a bull nose at the front to give it that aerofoil shape. So if we just line this up, in fact I'll just pull it back a little bit. In fact, I'll tell you what I'll do, I will measure it and then we'll mark it up. So here at the root it's 8.5 centimetres. So that is going to be there, and then at the tip it's about here, it's about 4 centimetres. So if I draw a line along there, we should be about there. Yep, that's looking good. It's a bit difficult to see probably on the camera because you can see the lines of the so that line there is the join, so it's this line here that I've just done with my pencil, and that's where I've got to chamfer that back section. So I need to do the same on the other side, so same on this side. Obviously I've got to do the leading edge as well, and then I've got to do the same on the other wing as well. So I'll get that done and then show you what we've got. Okay, so I've got these marked up. Just show you on that one, I've just put some lines here so you can see. So it goes along there, down there, and then across there, just so you can see where I'm going to shape it to. And that matches up perfectly with the plan. And because they're they're identical, the wings are, basically I was able to put them together like this and then just mark onto the other wing. So that's how I did it, so that I know that they're more or less exactly the same, so that's good. The leading edge one, don't think is too, well, you obviously need to get it right, but you're only really going to take off a tiny amount here in this section, and then obviously we'll put a bit of a bull nose there on the front. It does give you an example of the profile here, and it does say to try and draw that onto here, but that's going to be really tricky if you ask me. But it does tell you you want about 3 mils on the leading edge, and then finish with 3 mils on the trailing edge, and we know it's 6.5 mil Balsa, so we've got to take off 3.5 mils basically. So what I might do is, I've got a thickness gauge. Apologies if I forget the correct term for it, but I might use that just to check that how the progress is going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with this little thing. So this is my razor plane that I've bought. It does have a blade in it already, and it also comes with a pack of blades, so that's nice. So I'll start off with that. Just going to take these edges off. It's a while since I've used one of these, so do you know what? I think what I might do is just practice on this, just to get the hang of it. Just bear with me 1 second. It has been a while since I've done anything like this, so, and these are obviously very sharp. It's got a razor blade in it, so we're just going to run it along there like that. That's doing absolutely nothing. So that just needs adjusting. Let's try that. That's better. Obviously you can run along the edge like that, or if you're careful you can run it, make sure you can see that, flat like this. And that's exactly what we're looking for, these nice shavings. And if we, if you angle it, you can get a thicker sort of cut. So I think we're okay with that. Practice piece. So let's give it a go. I'll get this plan out of the way again because I don't want to go and damage this in some way. Razor playing a big hole in the plan. So we'll start with this wing. We'll just, I think what we'll do is just take that edge off first. Obviously the tip's going to be a bit tricky because that's end grain there. This is nice and straightforward here. But if your razor blade's sharp enough, then it still works. So let's do this bit. A little bit trickier. Okay, that's just taken the that sharp edge off, so let's hit it with something a bit bigger. It's important not to get carried away because it's very easy to take off too much material. See, that's tricky now, but probably nowhere near enough yet. So if you can see that there, it's starting to take shape. It's going to be a little while, but I'll keep working away at it and we'll see where we get to. Okay, so that's that leading edge done on that wing. Both sides done, so that's good. So let's have a go at doing this trailing edge. Now this is a much flatter curve, so I think we'll really sort of go in fairly delicate with the razor plane. We've still got to get this trailing edge down to 3 mils though, so we've got to take a fair chunk out of this. Balsa dust. This razor plane is really sharp. Brand new, so essential item though if you're going to work with balsa. It just makes life so much easier than trying to sand all the time. Right, that's getting pretty heavy there. Okay, let's turn it over, do this side. Just take these edges off again to begin with. Let's just try and make it a bit thicker as we go. Just sort of angling the razor plane at different angles each time, just to sort of take a bit more off. Right then guys, I'm pretty happy with that. First bit of sanding and shaping that I've done for a very long time. So that is, I've measured that is about 3 mils along that leading edge, same on the, trailing edge, same on the leading edge. Because obviously you don't want to make it too thin, because then it's just going to be super flimsy, and that's plenty thin enough. So I think that will do as an initial shaping. What I will do is go over with, that is, I'm not quite sure what grade that is, but it's fairly smooth, but this is very soft balsa, but I will go over it with a really fine grit once. I mean, something like this, obviously that's a tiny piece, but I'm not sure what that is either, but that's probably something like 800 to 1000, something like that, just to really smooth it out before I finalise it. So I'll put this one to one side and I'll do the same now on the other wing. Right, well, as you can see from the shavings in the dust, that's the other wing done. Again, I'm really pleased with that. Nice profile on that, pretty much bang on with what's on the plan. I mean, there's only so far you can go with a flat wing like this, a solid wing. It's not like it's got built up ribs that are, nicely shapen ribs or anything like that. So you've got to be a bit careful, like I say, that you don't end up going really thin at the leading and trailing edge. But I'm really pleased with that. Same with the other wing as well. So I'm actually amazed, considering this is literally the first time I've been doing this for many, many years, how quickly these wings have come together. What else? I've been having great fun here. What else would you want to be doing on a Sunday evening? Watching crap on TV or being in your workshop sanding and shaving balsa. I'm absolutely covered in balsa dust, which is great. I can't breathe properly, but we'll worry about that later. So yeah, it's such, you forget how nice it is to work with balsa, because it's like instant gratification. If you've got like say if you do a little ding with the razor plane, you're like, oh no, and all you do is just run over it with a sanding block, and it instantly just, it's such a nice wood to work with. But obviously you do have to keep in mind that before you know it, you can wear it down to nothing. But yeah, nice set of wings. That, really pleased with that as a good start. So for me, I'm going to call it a night. Obviously for you guys, it'll be a few seconds. So next job now is to cut the ailerons out. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. There's a little ding there, actually. That's probably going to want a little bit of filler. There we go, sorted. So I'm going to be cutting the ailerons out. So I need to measure those up as per the plan. As I said, there is like a starter cut there already that they've done for you with the laser cutter, so that's good. But yeah, I'll be getting those cut out, then joining them together with the brace. So that's all going to be coming up. So I will see you in a few minutes, but it'll actually be probably a couple of days. Right then, guys. Well, I think on the last clip I mentioned I was going to be back in a couple of minutes, but for me it might be a bit longer than that. Well, it's actually been about a week. Just been really busy with still trying to sort this extension and renovation out on my house, which is just eating into all my time at the moment. But anyway, Sunday evening, here I am back again in the workshop, got a little bit of time. So, well, first off, I've treated myself to a few new bits. So got a nice big Perma-Grip, which is a nice long one. So these are brilliant tools if you haven't got one already. They're just really nice to use, don't really clog up, and I just fancied having just a bit of a longer one for like nice long straight edges and that sort of stuff. So bought myself one of those, and I've also bought a few accessories. I got these things from a shop in the UK called rcworld.co.uk. It's a really good shop, I find, for all the little bits and bobs that you might need, that, you know, traditionally you would have gone to a model shop for, but they're not really around anymore. That one looks like I've just bought an empty bag. Oh no, there we go. There's some hinges in there. So what I've bought is various control horns. I probably should have checked my stash of these things before I ordered them, but as I was ordering this Perma-Grip block, I thought I may as well get a few bits. They're so cheap anyway, you know, when you're paying for the postage. So I bought some sort of small ones and large ones. The large ones are going to be way too big for this model, but the small ones should be perfect. So I've got some of those, and then the other thing I bought was a couple of packs of these Sino-based or CA-based hinges. They're sort of textured hinges that really soak up the CA when you put them in. You just have to cut a small slot with the knife and just put those in, and they tend to work really well, to be honest, particularly for a small model like this. Should be absolutely fine. So next job on these wings is just cutting the ailerons out. So not sure how well you can see on the plan. Let me just bring it a bit closer. So you can see here it's got these lines that we need to cut out on the wing, and as I've mentioned previously, it's already got that slot cut, and then the other end of the aileron is here where the wingtip is glued on. So it's basically just to cut that bit there as well, and then obviously we just need to measure the length of that. So I'll measure that on the plan and then just mark that out on there and cut it out. So I just need to do that on both wings to get the ailerons cut out. So if I just measure this, it's 18 mils. So I just need to mark that along there, which we'll just get done. And then if we line these two up, then that should give us where we need to cut. So I'll just do the same on this wing, and then I'll get rid of the plan and we can cut that out on the board underneath. Right, so I've got my cutting mat out, and I'm just going to cut along here first. I've just put a brand new blade as well in this knife, so it should be nice and sharp. And then we'll just check this one as well. Mainly cut, as I say, with the laser, so that's pretty much done, that one. And then we can go along the grain and get it cut out. Get it properly lined up. There we go. Just take my time with it as well. Make sure I've got the edge of the blade against the ruler. A couple of passes as well, rather than just like really pressing down hard. It's a bit easier doing it that way. So that's okay there. And there we go. One Aero. That's come out quite nicely, as you can see. So we'll probably just have to sand each edge of that, just to give it a little bit more room there to move around. And of course we'll need to bevel the back of this to allow it to hinge upwards and downwards. So that's that. I'll get the same done on this wing, and then we'll see what's next. Okay, so I've just tested out the new Perma-Grip, so just sanded these down a little bit, and the nice thing about the Perma-Grip is because this is a nice long one and it's absolutely straight as an arrow, you can push it up against that and sort of give it a really nice long pass and know that that's going to be nice and square, or keep the angle like I've got there. So I've just done that just to give a bit more room, and that looks nice there. That's probably just about right when you could take into account the covering film. You might need a little bit more off it, actually, thinking about when it's covered. Because what we don't want it to do, of course, is bind up. That should be fine. Covering's very thin, of course, and I've done the same on this one, so I'll just do that one a little bit more. And then what I'm going to do is get the old razor plane back out, which is one of my favourite tools. And I'm just going to take the, bevel this a bit. So just start to round that back edge off, just so we know we're going to get a nice movement for the aileron there. So I'll just do that both sides, make sure we get both ends. And then what we can do, just take the sanding block and just round that off a bit. Right, so we're on to the last bit of building the wings. There isn't much to the wings, of course, and the last bit here basically just says the wings can now be joined together and the 3mm birch ply wing spar fitted. To finish, and then it says, to finish them off, use some fine abrasive paper. I have already gone over them with some 1200 grit paper, just to give them a nice smooth finish. So I've already done that. I thought it was actually easy to do it while they're in two halves before I join them. And I was thinking it will also be a lot easier to cover them in two halves. But having looked at the plans and also just checked some photos, the fuselage covers quite a chunk of the centre of the wing. And it's kind of a mid-wing as well, so it's not like you're going to see the top of the wing or the bottom of the wing, because it's covered by either the bottom of the fuselage or sort of the turtle deck or canopy on the top. So even though they are joined together, I am still going to be able to cover them in, like 4 bits of covering basically, and it doesn't have to be a nice seamless transition over the middle, because you're not going to see it anyway. So I think I will join them now. That's what it says in the instructions as well. And just having a think, so that's I've cut the spar out there from the 3mm birch ply. And just sort of having a think about the best way to tackle this, because it doesn't give you any details on the plans or the instructions. You kind of just do what you want, really. That is a really nice fit. So that fits really nice and snug in there, and I've marked the centre line on it. So I think what I'm going to do, because you know it is only a little model, I'm going to run some thin CA into there, and that's going to really wick into that birch ply and the balsa, and I think that will be plenty strong enough for a model of this size. So do that side first, make sure that's all set, then offer this side up like that. I'll put it like this on the bench. So we've got these at the right angle as far as the spar is concerned. And then once I've done that, again, just tack it with some CA into position and then run some in there. And then that will leave me, it's actually the top of the wing because it's anhedral as opposed to dihedral. So that will leave me a gap then down the middle, which I'm going to just fill that with some epoxy just to give it that extra little bit of strength. So I think that's the way I'm going to tackle it, and I think that'll be fine for the size of model that it is. So let's get this spar glued into place. So I just need to make sure it's lined up, which it is. Get the thin CA, and again I'm just going to sort of tack this into position. Well, I would do if the CA wasn't blocked up. Let's try that again. Literally just needs it wicks in so well, this stuff. And sometimes when it's soft balsa like this and on the end grain, you can actually see it. Oops, sorry, you can't see that. You can actually see it sort of smoking as it sets, and it does get quite hot sometimes. It's crazy stuff, really. But that's got that already. So we'll get some in there. Get that nicely soaked. Well, that's gone off completely there. And it's all dried as well, so I can put it on the board, which is good. So I suppose I could chamfer this a little bit, but just so it sits flat then on there, but I'm not sure. I think I'll just doesn't say to do that in the instructions, and might be overcomplicating things really. Okay, so I've just put my little block underneath this wing just to lift it up, and that's completely flush there. So I think what we'll do is let's get that spar tacked on this side, and then we can once that's gone off, we can then line up the leading edge and trailing edge, but the centre's nicely joined, well, you know, it's perfectly level there, so that's looking pretty good. The thing is, of course, they're not exactly the same thickness, the leading and trailing edge, so I think the thing to do is get it lined up, and on the bits that haven't been sanded and shaped. Okay, so that's lined up. So we'll just get a bit of this on quick. Okay, and then I'll do the same at the front. Leading edge, should I say. Okay, and then I'm just going to run some CA down the rest of it to really lock it in now. Oh, it's smoking a bit now. I don't know if you can see that. Probably not. It absolutely stinks as well, this CA does. The thin stuff. It's one of those smells that is not a nice smell. Gets right up your nose, makes your eyes water. But that's got that quite nicely. And as I said, what I'll do now is I'll just mix up a bit of epoxy and just run it along the bottom there, get it into that gap, and then that should be plenty strong enough then. So I'll do that off camera, because no point in filming me mixing a bit of epoxy and stuffing it into a gap. So there it is anyway. It's the wing done. As it goes on like that, it's got quite a pretty strong anhedral angle to it, so it sits on, as I say, so it slopes down That's how it is on the Gnat. But yeah, that was relatively straightforward. So next is the really exciting part, and that is where we move on to the fuselage, which I'm probably going to have to do as several episodes, I think, because there's obviously a lot more to do on the fuselage, so I'll probably split it into maybe 2 or 3. You know, perhaps have the last one installing the motor into it and that sort of stuff. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this episode, and I hope that you know, you're going to stick around and see me build this Gnat to completion and follow along. If you haven't subscribed, then hit the subscribe button, and if you click the bell icon, then you will get notified when the next episode comes out. If you are interested in seeing the progress of this, you can also give me a thumbs up, which is a like in YouTube, which helps me out a lot as well, helps the video get promoted on the YouTube. If you have subscribed already, then I really appreciate your support, and hopefully, you know, if you haven't subscribed, then you will do, and you'll help me build towards at least 1,000 subscribers is where I'd like to get to. Anyway, that's part 1 complete, so stick around for the next episode where we get into this lot and start work on the fuselage. So there's a ton of stuff to do here, and yeah, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you soon for the next one.